Good evening. And it's Thanksgiving week. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there from Chuck Hobbs and my partner Gerald Tooks here at the Hobbservation Point. This Monday, we wanted to talk a little bit with some of my boys. Those of you who follow this show, and I thank you for that, of course, in the last few months, know really well that we started off with doing different Black college roundtables. But the very first one that I had was with my brothers from Morehouse College. And I have assembled quite a few here this evening where I just want to talk a little bit to them about how they're doing, what their plans might be for Thanksgiving, and talk about other subjects that are just important for brothers to be able to do. As I have continued to reiterate, the coronavirus pandemic has been tough this year for everybody. And one of the things that has helped so many of us actually is social media and these types of platforms like via StreamYard, Zoom, the ability to be able to see each other, talk to each other, laugh, and have a good time. We talk seriously a lot here on this show about politics and social issues. And being that we are Morehouse men, I have no doubt that we will talk about a few of those before the hour is up as well. But right now, I want to bring my brothers on in so that we can get the party started. We have this evening with me Mike Brooks out of North Carolina, really by way of Orlando. We have Corey Smith out of Riviera Beach, who's down there in West Palm Beach. We have Kevin Johnson out of Philadelphia right now. My eighth boom, Kenneth Taite, right here in Tallahassee, Florida. We have Jason Hayes representing Duval, Jacksonville, Florida. Good evening. And my boy, Teddy McDaniel, who's up in North Carolina, but he's always representing Columbus, Ohio, and Ohio State Buckeyes. Good evening, brothers. How are you doing?
How are you?
Good. Well, like we did the last time we were able to convene Morehouse Roundtable, I just want to go around the group. I know we were supposed to be joined also by Damian Butler at some point in time out in Texas, but I want to go around the roundtable right now and just get a feel for how are you doing? What's going on with you? I know that many of us have had some setbacks. We've had some great moments this year. Some of us have dealt with some health issues this year. I know personally that Tate and I recently have had a string of deaths with young men that we grew up with that have known pretty much our entire lives here in Tallahassee, Florida. So sending, again, more rest and peace out to Owen Paul, who passed last week, Chauncey Holloman the week before that, and then still mourning the loss of Kenny Perry, who died a couple of months ago. So with that, I want to start off. Mike Brooks, talk to me a little bit. How you living, man? What are you grateful for?
Yeah. Once again, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I'm great, given the circumstances. And I always put that asterisk on there. But I think what sustains me is I remember at A&T where I worked, North Carolina A&T, the chancellor told us a long time ago, if you can extend grace, then go ahead and do so. And we've repeated that in my small group, my small work group a lot. And we just try to practice that. If we can extend grace to someone, then we go ahead and do that. And it helps keep everything in perspective. I recently started making a list of gratitude where I just list either in my head or I write these things down, all the things that I'm thankful for. And I just try to keep what's in front of me right there without focusing too far ahead in the future or getting too far in the past. And it seems to be working so far. Looking forward to these non-COVID days. Looking forward to spending time with my family in Florida, my family out on the West Coast. But until then, me and the family, we make our own vacations, sometimes here at the house, and sometimes we steal away as a group. But like I said, we're okay. We're okay. Thank you for asking.
No doubt about it, man. I see Corey Smith trying to get the seat squared away. Corey, you're next up, brother. Talk to me. How you doing down there in West Palm Beach, brother?
Hey, I'm good. Glad to be on as usual, Chuck, man. You know, in true South Florida fashion, the bottom just dropped out on me, so I had to get out the yard and get under the back porch here. And it was hinting just a second ago, and then it just fell out, so I had to do some adjustment. But you know, this year's been crazy. We all know that. I can say that things picked up for me a little bit towards the last few months, so it's been a little better for me. You know, it's always the hardest thing with the COVID pandemic for me right now is something that we joked about a few months ago, and you know, that was the fact that I wasn't sending my kids back to school. And, you know, I was going to be at the Crib Academy, right? It is the hardest thing I have been doing in a very long time, you know, keeping track of 3 kids My youngest of which is autistic, so I have to sit with him, either myself or the wife. So it's really difficult to monitor, the two that are in 6 and 8, and then sit with the 9-year-old. And that's tough. It's really tough. I mean, my son who's starting middle school in 6th grade is having a really tough time adjusting to this computer thing. He's good with his hands. So he's a learner who has to use his hands and write things down. So sitting on a computer all day isn't helping him. So I'll be glad when this whole pandemic thing is over. Obviously, we're all ecstatic about the election. At least we'll move forward in a different direction come January. And, I'm just thankful for all that. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my health.
Hey, man, Kenny Taite, talk to me. I know that you've had a little bit of setbacks health-wise. It looks like you're getting back and strong enough, like Han Solo told Chewbacca, to pull the ears off a gun dart, whatever a gun dart is. So with that in mind, how you living, brother?
Living great, man. Living great. Man, first and foremost, I'm thankful that God is God all by himself, man. He doesn't lie, and he'll get you through those tough situations. So I'm thankful for that. Certainly thankful for family, for church family, for friends like you, and brothers and sisters out there who've been praying for me. And I've gotten past the health issues, and we're good to go. It's been interesting times. Adjusting to this COVID thing, being a business owner, having your children at home. I've got the small girls, and they have some anxiety about not being able to see their friends. But my wife has been a trooper. She's truly my helpmeet, and she, along with my 8-year-old, have been instituting these little goals that we try to reach every week. We've started the gratitude jar, actually, and we go through that every week. And we talk about what we're grateful for. My 8-year-old has instituted Fun Fridays, where it's mandatory that we all come together after, school and work, and we sit down, we watch a good movie, pop the popcorn, and we talk. And we just, whatever's on your mind, we get it out, and we just have a good time and we bond. So we've gotten close as a family. And I just thank God, we're living in interesting times, as they say, I guess that's an old Chinese proverb. We're living in interesting times, but we're strong enough to get through it. I'm grateful for it.
Amen, brother. Amen. And with that, Jason Hayes, actually, I'm sorry, Reverend Dr. Kevin Johnson.
Cool.
Talk to me. What's going on up there in Pennsylvania?
No, things are well overall here in Philly. Just trying to maintain like everybody else. COVID has been challenging as everybody else has articulated, and particularly for me as a pastor of a new church. Our church is only to be 6 years old next month, and when you're talking about not seeing your people, that's difficult. But the reality is that there are a lot more who are dealing with other challenges that I'm just frankly not dealing with. But I enjoy the creativity that my team has helped put together. And then also, I just got a good family support. My wife is supportive. 3 children are supportive. At the church, we got these different cameras to get these angles. And then one Sunday, man, I looked up, and he's also a sophomore at Morehouse. And I looked up one day, man, and he was operating one of the cameras. I mean, that just blessed my soul to see that boy on that camera, because, as a preacher, you don't want your children to feel like they're obligated to do stuff. So to see him up there was pretty cool. But I'm just praying for everybody. I'm thankful that this is Thanksgiving, and I'm looking forward to some turkey. I got to make some sweet potato pies later this week, and we're just gonna have a good time fellowshipping together.
That's what's up, man. And I really respect so much, so much of the work that so many people have done across this country. But definitely, Brother Johnson, the clergy across America, the responsible clergy, I put it that way, because there have been many clergy members who have been completely irresponsible when it comes to COVID-19. But the majority of pastors that I know, just like you, have adjusted well, similar to many of our educators. I can't stop paying debts of gratitude to those who had to quickly figure out new ways to provide services that are definitely essential. So with that, the tip of the cap to you. With that, Jason Hayes, your turn, brother. What's going on up in New York? How you living?
Hey, man, I'm living day to day like everybody else, just trying to figure it out, just like everybody else. And I'll say, along the term of gratitude, I'm thankful for it all, the good and the bad, the happy and the sad, because it's all proving that I'm still here and I still got a chance,
Mm-hmm.
I got two daughters, one's a senior in high school. The college applications are going out. The first one went to Spelman, of course. That's the first choice. So hopefully that works out for us. I'm living day to day like everybody else, just trying to figure it out. So right now, it's just trying to navigate this COVID thing, man, and hope Trump doesn't blow up the world, before January 21st.
Right.
That's where I'm at right now.
Thanks.
I hear you. And it's funny. We're going to talk a little bit about President Trump here before the evening is out, I am sure. And I'm pretty confident he won't blow up the world. I think that he's pretty much going to be held in check by Mitch McConnell and some of the other people around him who recognize that it's almost over for that particular administration. With that, Teddy, what's going on with you, brother? How you living?
Hey, brother. Like everyone else, man, I'm just kind of navigating through COVID. It's been an interesting year. I've been in Charlotte with my family for 3 years now, and I'm in the people business. I run the Urban League here in Charlotte, so I'm used to seeing clients every day and classes and people coming in for services, and we've just gotten to that point throughout the year where we've had to make the adjustments. And so professionally speaking, it's ups and downs, man. I mean, I like to be amongst the people, and I'm a social guy, and so that takes an adjustment. I am very grateful for these technological tools and brothers like you, Chuck, and others that pull us together, because this is the socialization that we miss during these COVID-19 times. I got two daughters here in Charlotte. They're young, 4 and 6, and so they're navigating what it's like. They are in school, but it's not the same as it was before, and so I'm glad holidays are coming around. We'll be staying local. My parents are in Ohio, and my brother and his family are in Atlanta, and everyone's healthy. That's a blessing, because so many of us have had to deal with death and sickness, and so I'm thankful for my good health and just trying to keep it moving, man. I will say, and I know we might get into a little politics, I'm glad the election is over. And thank you, Brother Johnson, and those in Philly and those in Georgia that showed up. We showed up as much as we could here in North Carolina, but I will tell you, I can't wait to turn the page, because we did a whole lot of work to get the vote out, and it's time for the Agent Orange to go. So with that, I look forward to other types of conversations tonight.
No doubt about it. So with that, let's get it started. One of the things that I love about this format, and it's interesting because we talk to so many people, and I like to highlight historically Black colleges and universities. There's no doubt about it, but I can anticipate that in the days ahead, both on this show as well as Front and Center, the new show that I'm developing with my partner, Gerald Tooks, that we're going to be bringing in all sorts of people, diverse races, but also Black folks who went to PWIs. Sometimes I get some of my friends that went to PWIs like, Hobbs, you don't show no love to the FSU Blacks and the Florida Blacks. And I'm like, I got love. But there's just something about the Black college experience that I like to highlight. And I talk about from time to time a conversation that I had with Lerone Bennett once when we were at school on the yard. I happened to see him standing outside of Sale Hall during Founders Week one year, and he had that pipe in his hand. And I walked up to him all nervous, and he was just as cool as the fan, man. Very gracious, like most Morehouse men are. And I had to say most because I've had some interesting experiences with one or two where they almost got swung on. But back to the seriousness. the one of the things that he said that he focused on so much when he was at Ebony and Jet was he felt it was important for him to highlight our institutions, our schools. And that's why you always saw Black colleges featured in the pages of Ebony and Jet. And he definitely always kept Morehouse and Spelman and Clark and Morris Brown, but most predominantly Morehouse on the pages of Ebony and Jet during the course of his tenure. And I try to do a little bit of that in my sphere of influence. But with that in mind, I also like to tell our viewers that what you're going to see tonight is a glimpse into what it was like when we were at 830 Westview Drive. This is what we used to do. Yes, I mean, in addition to going to class and doing well and partying and doing things that we won't mention tonight on a family-friendly show. But generally speaking, when we were not getting our lesson or doing bacchanalian things, this is what was up. We would sit in the dorms, or we would sit in the cafeteria, or sit in the McVeigh building somewhere, and we would talk and analyze all of the world's issues. And social media has helped with that. It's helped us to continue to, reignite the passion that we had as young men and continue to do our parts in our area. So with that, I want to do a little bit of what we talked about a lot, especially the Florida boys back in the day, and Ted, too, representing Ohio. We used to talk football. We used to talk college football quite a bit. And I'll just get the ball started, and then I'll let y'all run with it. This year has been weird for me. Everybody who knows me knows that I love football. I haven't attended one game this year, obviously because of social distancing. One of my best friends was the coach at FAMU High School. I'm a huge supporter of his in the school and the team, but I just could not go out there in good conscience as much as I wanted to out of fear of this disease. And there's been a part of me that even when the college games have come on, all of our Black colleges followed the lead of Morehouse and canceled the seasons. And so some of the predominantly white colleges are playing, but I might watch it, and not even might. I watch it some, but it just doesn't have the same, I don't know. And same with the NFL games. It's on, and I'm hearing the noise in the background, but I just have not been that passionate this year. And I think it's because there's a reticence within me knowing that on some level, these young men shouldn't even be out there. Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, so Chuck, I'll chime in with you. This year has been rough when it comes to football season. And like you, I'm a junkie. I'm an admitted junkie when it comes to football, pro and college. But I'll start with the college game. There's a lot of risk to those young men out there on the field. And I'm the type that on Saturdays in the fall, I start Saturday morning with college game day. Like it's that's what I want to see. I want to see where the analysts are, what stadium they're in. It's kind of my rah-rah before the games get started at noon. And the toughest part, and I do watch, I just, it's out of habit. But the toughest part is there are no fans in the stands.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the college games, some of y'all know my dad is a former college band director. He was band director in Morehouse and A&T before going to Ohio State. And I mean, it's the fans and it's the rah-rah. And I mean, you can have a great play, but it's just quiet. And it doesn't feel the same. I know that at the end of the day, these are young men who are focusing on doing well on the field and hopefully staying focused on their academics. But for the general college fan, this is a different year. And I don't think we'll be able to acknowledge a real champion as we have in years past, just because of the season, the way it's played out.
No, I feel you. Go ahead, Mike Brooks. I see you.
Yeah, but Teddy, what happened at the end of the Notre Dame Clemson game when the Notre Dame fans rushed the field? I mean, there was no. Yeah. It got crazy, and the big thing is who's at fault. Are the students at fault? Is the institution at fault? Is the NCAA at fault for allowing these people into the stadium? Is it shared responsibility? For some reason, I was telling one of my guys this back here in Winston-Salem, like, why is the NBA just a little more conscious? I mean, the whole bubble concept, the whole let's just get everybody tested. We have to have 0 tests. The NBA went like 4 months with no new COVID cases. Now, granted, everyone was in one facility, but I was like a junkie watching games, like you, Teddy. Like I'm watching games, 4 or 5 games a day, and I was able to make sense out of it. But with this football scene, and more so college than the pros, I think the pros, they're making a conscious decision to go anyway. But with these college kids, I'm still calling them kids, and I'm like, they need to be protected.
No doubt. Go ahead, Corey, then Tate. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah. So I'm having a hard time with college this year. You know, pros, they're professionals. You know, most of those guys are millionaires and they're paying them. But I have a real problem, and y'all know me and Chuck. You know, I'm a diehard Gator. I've been UF all my life pretty much. But I have a problem being in the chat rooms and the fan pages. And, you know, when we're talking about this stuff preseason, hey, maybe we should play. Maybe we should, you know, protect these kids because these kids, you know, they're going to go home. You know, they got grandparents at the house, that kind of thing. And all you heard from the majority of the fans, and I know y'all know what I mean when I say majority, is that, oh, they need to play. And for me, that kind of took something off of my fandom for the college or the university, should I say, because it just feels like, you know, that system of using these kids to fund any and everything at these big PWIs, and they get little to nothing in return. It just bothered me. It sits funny. Now that said, I watch, you know, because I want to see the kids succeed, and you know, at least one of my homeboy sons plays at Florida right now. The Elam kid, the DB. Yeah. He's right here from Riviera. So, you know, I want to see these kids do well and make it to the next level, but at the same time, it's hard for me to kind of feel that same, you know, level of, you know, fandom that I felt in years past. And so it's tough, man. I mean, hey, I'm a Dolphin. I'm a diehard Dolphin. I'll call them the Wakanda Dolphins because we all black everything. We got all black GM. We got a black head coach. Tua is a minority. If you look at him, he looks just like me and you. So, you know, I like to go at it from that standpoint. So, you know, if y'all don't want your teams, you know, your GMs, you know, all up in the camera, you know, you don't want no blacks being the quarterback. You don't want no blacks being the GM. Come on down here to Miami, you know, and root for the Dolphins. You know what I'm saying?
Man, you act like it's always been like that.
Right.
It's got to start somewhere, Tate. Got to start somewhere.
Hey, Kenny Tate, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, Chuck. I had the same perspective as you and Corey. I went into the season really skeptical, you know, thinking, okay, here we go again. It's the plantation, you know. You're gonna use these kids to generate the dollars in your little communities like Tallahassee and Tuscaloosa and whatever. But then I had to think about the fact that I was once 18, 19 years old, and you guys know as much as I do that, you know, you can't tell us anything. And those guys are wanting to play just as much as, you know, those majority fans are wanting them to play. So that's the interesting paradox of it all, is that, you know, you have all these forces trying to force that. That being said, they're adults, they're administrators, they're doctors, they're board members that have adult responsibilities for these kids. And so that's, you know, I wanted to see how they want to handle it. And I knew it was going to be a sliding scale of some universities and some conferences being more responsible than others. But and you know, you talk about HBC love. Who's playing right now? The PDWs are playing. The HBCUs are planning. You know, they were looking at the stats. They were looking at the CDC guidelines, and, you know, just like FAMU and our conference, they were planning it. But when the numbers started changing, they made executive decisions that I think were great decisions. So, you know, it's the individual conference and the individual schools' values that are put out there on the forefront, and you can see, you know, who's for the kids and who's for the almighty dollar.
No doubt about it. And before I go to Kevin,
Yeah.
And Jason Hayes. I just want to interject. Corey Tate and I were at Morehouse together, but we also were at the University of Florida together. So we were all in school together for a number of years. Corey and I at the law school, and Tate over in the building construction school where he was earning his master's. And interestingly enough, back then we were younger and far more svelte. Now Corey is still in svelte shape and what have you. But yeah, we used to ball out. We had a predominantly, and I do mean predominantly, black intramural team. We had a couple of white guys that were on the squad with us. And what's interesting, they were all Jewish guys, if you remember. Interestingly enough, and they could ball. Yeah, they could ball. Dan and Carlos Tate, your boy Carlos. Yeah, we had some good ballers out there with us. I mean, and we were good. I mean, I'm beating our chest. We were so good that the only team that really could house us was the UF football team. That's the only game I remember us struggling in. When you're sitting up and you're playing in the middle, and you got Javon Curse running point guard and Fred Taylor at shooting guard, and you sit there like, okay, we're good athletes, but now we see the difference between being a good athlete and a full-class first-round athlete. There was a pronounced difference. Trust me on that. But with that in mind, I too have struggled because you see those comments from the majority fans on those websites, and you realize that they only see our young boys as being Toby out there, to bring lucre to State U or the University of whatever state it is. And I found that to be problematic. I also found just some of the language. So to the point where when I discuss ball, if I'm talking about the Gators at all, it's with Corey, it's with Tate, it's with Phil Hutchinson and the boys like that, Horace Moore. I just don't even really post it on my page that much anymore, because while I know we have a lot of our white friends that are down by law and good people and great and great on a lot of issues, I don't want the guy that I just saw talking trash about George Floyd 1 minute, now on there talking about go Gators, because I'm like, no. You stay over there with the All Lives Matter crowd, and I'm going to give you this opportunity to come over here and play Kumbaya with me on my Facebook page. With that, Jason Hayes, Kevin, I'm going to get you last.
Yep.
Jason, let me ask you this. I know you're a diehard Florida State Seminole fan, right? and y'all dodged the bullet this past weekend. Clemson was here ready to put up at least, I figure, 70.
900, dog.
Yeah, it was about to get ugly. And I'm in the grocery store on Saturday, and I see on the phone that they're talking about they've canceled the game. And it's turned into a real nasty back and forth. Clemson saying it's FSU didn't want to play. FSU saying it's Clemson that didn't want to play, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, being that Clemson easily would have scored 70 or 80. But that in mind, what are your thoughts about all of this too, Jason, in this weird 2020 year?
Well, first of all, I mean, it just seems to me like a lot of this is karmic for FSU, because you know how they treated my boy Willie T last year. I never heard of a coach getting fired 21 games into a rebuild, but I digress on that. In terms of what happened Saturday, I blame Dabo, man. Why in the hell, you traveling with somebody who's symptomatic, a backup lineman on a plane with everybody else, and you want to go out here and run on the field against everybody else where the coach has already had COVID. I mean, it's just dumb across the board. But to build on what everybody else was talking about, it's one of those things where the HBCUs feel responsible not only to those kids, but to those kids' families. Like the HBCU presidents understood that who was being most adversely affected by this COVID thing. And they would not roll the dice. They felt a personal responsibility, to take care of those kids and take care of Big Mama and all of them out there, man, who's dying from this. And the PWIs are showing you where they stand. It's about their Skrilla at the end of the day, and they don't care. I mean, all those kids are just pieces on the field, to be utilized and discarded. And most people out here talking about they need to play don't understand that scholarships are renewable. Ain't no 4-year scholarships. I mean, if you you come in as a 5-star and you don't produce, they might give you 2-3 years or whatever. Like sometimes it works out like that, but you can get bounced. They come ask you to leave because you got somebody better coming down the pipeline. So for me, man, Florida State is brutal to me, but a part of me is kind of enjoying it, and it's killing me, to see all these monks with all this patience now preaching the virtue of a rebuild when they wanted Willie T fired after the first game of his first year. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's real talk. And that's one of the things that's the conundrum for many of us is that, you know, we might have gone to HBCU's undergrad, but a lot of us went to PWIs for graduate school. And, you know, you have affinity for your second or third alma mater, but at the same point in time, you recognize that, we're still invisible men and invisible women amongst the student body or the alumni at some of those schools, and they could not care less about our feelings on so many of these subjects. Kevin Johnson, it's your turn, bro. You waited patiently.
Yeah. No, I agree with everybody is saying about the season. For me, I was curious as to what was going to happen with me because I'm so used to watching the game with my son. And of course, you know, he's now a student in college, but what's been cool now is that he's back home. And so one day I was like, you know, so much I wanted to kind of have that father-son bond. And I was like, you want to watch the game? He was like, all right. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he was like, because I'm excited about him being home. And he was like, it's not the same. And so that is the real kind of sentiment. So we've had some real conversations. And I think most of y'all know that I'm a Cowboys fan. And we all know what happened with Dak Prescott. And of course, there are plenty of things to talk about with Dak, particularly because of his stance as it relates to, taking a knee and supporting Kaepernick. But one of the things that my son just kind of broke down because his major is sports journalism is that he was like, Dad, he was like, you know, they did him dirty. He was like, Jerry Jones did him dirty. And the reality is that, you know, Dak, his career is over. And it's not because of COVID. It's because of, you know, a messed up situation on the field. And also just because he doesn't have a good contract now. And so I think about all of these athletes and how they've been taken advantage of, particularly with college, but also it's just not the same the way it was before. So hopefully next year will be better.
Brother Kevin just raised a great point on that, which is, you know, many of us stayed true to watching college sports, but a lot of us boycotted the NFL, right? When Kaepernick was first frozen out back in 2016. But Kaepernick has now settled his case. He's making millions of dollars off of his Nike contract. What are y'all still on team boycott? Or I already know the answer to that with Corey and what have you, but I'm not going to lie. I hadn't watched any NFL since 2016 until, again, this year. And I'm not watching it with the rabid love that I had as a kid when I'd have my Joe Theismann jersey and helmet on and sitting there to the bitter end of every ball game. But it's in the background because, again, I'm of the opinion that I can't do so many things that I ordinarily enjoy to do for outlet. You can't go to the movies. You can't travel. There was no Spellhouse Homecoming or FAMU Homecoming. So you got to do something other than just reading. I mean, I read all the time, whether it's for pleasure or just for knowledge purposes. And so having that diversion is good. But anybody else still on the boycott, I don't fool with the NFL, or anybody want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't ever on the boycott, Chuck. And, you know, I talked with a lot of brothers about this, primarily because I still was supporting black players when they played. I certainly understood the stance of those who said, I'm not watching it at all. But I think the NFL this year is it's not the same product as it's been in the past. I'm like Kevin, I'm a big Cowboys fan, and yes, Dak got screwed. He got screwed by the team, and then of course, you know, I don't know what happened on that play, but I don't think you'll see him back in another Cowboys uniform going forward. I wanna real quick go back to college for a second, Chuck, because one of the things we used to talk about all the time is business, and a lot of conversations talked about, you know, players and how they made money for these PWIs. Is true, but we also need to be thinking about these TV contracts, because the main reason that the Big Ten came back after saying they weren't going to play and the SEC never went away is because they get millions and billions of dollars from CBS and ESPN, and everybody has their own network. And so I think a lot about that, man. I mean, you know, at some point, some of these black colleges and HBCUs, when COVID gets passed, they got to get in on this money trail because the SEC decided, hey, we're going to play. You know why? If we don't and we lose that 30, 40, $50 million, then the engineering school doesn't get built. And I still think it's something that we should consider more when it comes to Black colleges or how to rebuild our campuses. That's a bit of a tangent, but I think about it every time I watch one of these PWI football games.
Well, I'll follow up with that, Teddy. And, I'm at A&T now. And one of the reasons why we left the MEAC is because we're chasing dollars. We wanted a bigger payout. And A&T may say something different, but we're trying to get some of that Hampton money. We're trying to play schools that have a BCS lineage. So we got out of the business of playing non-televised games or games that were on ESPN3 or some channel that was way down the line just so we could have a better payout and stronger recruits and try to get into that line. But, it's a double-edged sword. On one end, we're trying to get a bigger payout. On the other end, I think we're slowly suffocating Black college football. We have some very rich traditions in our rivals that if we all jump ship or we all rearrange ourselves, we could be our own sword that we kind of fall on. So I think somehow, some way, and I'm sure all the great minds of the MEAC and SWAC are smarter than me, need to figure out is there a middle ground to still preserve the traditions.
No, I'm right there with you on that, Mike. I actually applauded Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman for joining the SWAC. I was one of those guys that was raised primarily in Tallahassee that always wished that FAMU had been in the SWAC because I just felt as if the football tradition was much stronger and that the band tradition was much stronger. And I'm of the opinion that I'd much rather be playing Southern University and Jackson State and Alabama State and Grambling on than having to play Delaware State and honestly Howard, just to be honest with you, because while those are all prestigious HBCUs, the schools that I just named all have storied football traditions that are similar to the one at Florida A&M University, as well as to a lesser degree, but to a degree, Bethune-Cookman University as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I would love to see where we continue to promote our brand because it is important. I mean, think about it, y'all. When we were growing up and when we were at Morehouse, two of the most important events each year, and I don't even hardly have to say it, but I'll put it out there. In the fall, everybody knew that exactly. I heard Corey hit FAMU versus TSU in September. Atlanta used to be off the chain during that weekend, okay? It would be just so many hundreds of thousands of Black folks in there having a great time. And likewise, obviously, Freaknik in the spring. But in my mind, I'm like, when you think about the old FAMU Tennessee State game, when you think about the Bayou Classic, you think about the Florida Classic, the Magic City Classic between Alabama A&M and Alabama State, you see that those are games that have hundreds of thousands of people that are in the city enjoying themselves. You look at the CIAA basketball tournament, that's a huge money maker. You look at the Essence Festival during the summer. There are ways for us to be able to get at this serious money and what have you that would also invariably bring many of the best athletes back, because people say, oh, well, they all want to go to the league. But let's just be real. Most of these kids are not going to the NFL, right? I mean, if Florida State or Florida signed 25 to 30 young men to scholarships every year, only 3 to 5 of those guys, when they're seniors, are going to get drafted. Maybe 2 or 3 more might get free agent contracts in the NFL. But most guys that sign scholarships are not going to the league. And unfortunately, they're not even graduating from those schools. So in my mind's eye, I'm like, okay, well, if you can take them, you can't tell me that if you take a 16, 17-year-old boy and put them in the middle of Freaknik back when we were in school, or you put them in the middle of the FAMU Tennessee State game, there is no way. There is nothing that UF, FSU, or Miami could have offered me at 18 or 19 that remotely compared to the pageantry and the fun and the historical nature of those types of games and rivalries. So we have to continue to project and promote our own with that. Anybody else want to follow up on this before we head to the third question of the night? Anybody else got something else to say, Tate?
Chuck, I think you hit the nail on the head because, I mean, just briefly, Florida State used to recruit off of FAMU. And what FAMU had going on from the women, from the pageantry. You know, you got those savvy recruiters at Florida State that that understand what FAMU is. Maybe Maybe they had hours on the yard at FAMU. So they got the brothers at FSU, you know, a lot of times because of what was going on at Florida. They got the brothers over to FSU a lot of times because of what was going on at FAMU.
But
So,
Tate, but you know, to a certain degree, man, we're talking about what we would do as 18 and 19-year-olds. What do you say to that 18 and 19-year-olds' parents? Because I think that's where the influence is not really being made. We're at a state now where I think parents, and Jason, I'm so glad to hear you say what you said earlier about your daughters. Parents don't value the HBCU the way they used to. We're in a day and age now where we used to say, look, you're going to go, you have to at least apply to one HBCU or two. You have to at least go visit several HBCUs in your college making decision process. We're at a day and age now, we're like, no, we're above that to a certain degree, and we are devaluing our own schools. And I think that's a travesty. So somehow, as we value our schools, we'll value our sports.
Yeah, and with that, I think it's a perfect segue to the third topic of the evening. We alluded to it at the top, which is the fact that it looks as if we are fewer than 60 days away from Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris being sworn in as president and vice president of the United States of America. As we have highlighted often this year, Kamala Harris is a proud graduate of prestigious Howard University. We already know that our Morehouse brother, Kevin, I believe your classmate, your and Mike's classmate,
said year of 95, but
year 95, yeah, exactly. Brother Richmond is getting ready to join the administration in a very high up position. Time will tell whether or not our Spelman sister, Stacey Abrams, will be joining. Perhaps FAMU alumna Keisha Lance Bottoms, mayor of Atlanta, may be joining the administration in some capacity. So it is pretty clear that HBCUs had a tremendous impact this year on the 2020 election, which makes me beat my chest with pride because every now and again you get these comments from the late Justice Antonin Scalia. Remember that slow track lesser colleges comment that he put in the dicta of a Supreme Court decision, which was mind-boggling. But it looks like those slow track lesser colleges have continued to be the pace setters in the United States of America. With that in mind, I want to ask each one of you, what are you expecting moving forward? One of the things that we talked about last week with the sisters, I had a very wonderful roundtable with a bunch of Spelman and FAMU women last week when we were talking about sexism and misogyny and moving forward in the next 4 years. Brothers, what are some of the things that you are looking to see? One of the things that continues to intrigue me is the whole idea that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party made somewhat of a truce here with the moderates and or the blue dog conservatives to get Joe Biden elected. No matter how much Donald Trump and his surrogates tried to paint Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as extreme leftists, those of us who are Democrats know good and well that both of those individuals are closer to the right than they are to the extreme left. But I'm worried about where this is going starting in January in regards to people already making claims that we're old. I think Al Sharpton made comments yesterday that the black community is old. You've got progressives saying we are old because of their ability to get the vote out for Joe Biden. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite progressives on this, Mr. Jason Hayes. Take it away, brother.
Hey, brother, they owe everybody that made it happen. You know, listen, it's in a country, you know, you get things for free. Progressives like myself, like you know me for years, Chuck. You know, Joe Biden was at best 5th or 6th on my list. But when the alternative is Trump,
right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm voting for him if Satan is his running mate. You know what I'm saying? So you know, Biden has to make good on what he promised. You know, I mean, the Democrats have to deliver for the most solid base in the Democratic Party, that being black people. They got to come through. He got to come through for women, and they got to do progressive issues. I mean, not just because they owe them, but because progressive issues are winning issues. Trump got elected as a faux populist. You know, he promoted progressive ideas that he was never going to do. But if you check the polling across the board, we're talking about it from 65 to 90% agreement on you know, who's disagreeing about people should have health care? Who's disagreeing about cars, should be affordable? I mean, it's all these things are basic human rights. And if basic human rights are radical ideas, then I don't know what to say to anybody about any of that.
Hey, man. Kevin Johnson, I want to come to you next on that.
Okay.
I know that you put in a lot of work up there in Philadelphia in trying to make the dream come true for Biden and Harris. What are your thoughts moving forward, brother?
Yeah, I think that this is his early steps. You know, I'm watching every step. You know, what I don't want us to do is to get so caught up in the fact that Kamala Harris is the vice president elect that we see that we have made it. I was glad to see the day that he has, at least on the slate, is Linda Thomas Greenfield for United Nations. But for me, what I'm really looking at is he going to have some serious people of color over major budgets? Because UN is not a budget. Vice president elect, unless he gives her a portfolio, is not a budget. And so all of those cabinet positions are critical. And because one, you have a budget, we're talking about billions of dollars, like 10 and 12 billion dollars. So if he does not put people of color over major budgets, then we're just window dressing for him. And that's problematic. And then two, it's not just the secretary positions, but who are the deputy secretaries? Because the people who end up getting these cabinet positions is because they've served previously. And that's one of the things that we got to be very focused on, is not just who's at the top, but also who are the deputies, because that's where the longevity comes in down the road.
Thank you. Teddy, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, man. So I agree with Kevin a lot in that I don't want to see us get positions that I call symbolic over substance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's good that our brother Cedric Richmond is a senior advisor. Listen, no money, no mission.
That's right. That's right.
And you have to have some budgetary control. I don't have a whole lot of expectations. I'm gonna be real with you all about Biden's administration in the first 4 years being able to do a lot of things that they said on the trail. I think the first 2 years will be contentious. He's got a whole lot of posts to fill that haven't been filled in the last 4 years anyway. And I do expect for Biden to be a one-term president. I didn't say that it would automatically be Kamala Harris. We don't know who that's going to be. But I'd be surprised if he tried to do 2 terms. And so I think it's going to be an interesting first 2 years of his administration. I think he does owe particular constituent groups, Black women, no doubt, and they're going to let him know if things get a little quiet. But I will tell you that when it comes to investments in the Black community, even when Obama was there were a lot of things that never really got directed towards the gaps that we articulated loud and clear when he was campaigning. So I still believe in give us the money and let us invest in ourselves, as opposed to your administration just telling us how you think things should be. But I hope we get some people with some real influence and not just symbolic positions.
No, that's real talk. And Teddy, you raised a question that I'm going to throw at Kenny Taite right quick. Taite, you know, you and I have talked real for as long as I can remember, back to middle school, on so many things. And last week I had a very real and raw conversation with, again, a bunch of sisters here where the issue was breaking that glass ceiling and misogyny. One of the points that Ted just brought up that I'd like to explore first with you, Taite, when we're talking about the next 4 years, while we all pray that President Biden has a successful 4 years and makes it all the way through, there is the possibility, he's 78 years old, that he might not. And I'm not wishing that on him, but I'm just being real. Or that he might make it through, but at 82 years old will not be wanting to run again on the campaign trail. With that being said, Taite, and if anybody else wants to jump in on this, go ahead. Could a Vice President Kamala Harris defeat Donald Trump running again in 2024, or Tom Cotton, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and any other assortment of Republican would-be presidential contenders? Taite, I want you to take that first.
Good question. Scary question. I do see this period as a tourniquet, trying to get us back to normal. I think we need more than 4 years, but I think it's possible. it would be a Herculean lift, based on the fact that, surprisingly, I did see this little hint of misogyny out there. And I mean, it's on the majority side, but even coming from our side, and I didn't really understand that. They tried to cloak it in, her history of law enforcement. But I'm like, knowing some of these guys, it's like, okay, that's what you're using, but what if it was somebody else? Would you still be saying that? And I think they had the same position. So, it seems like every 2 to 4 years we got to build new coalitions, more people coming to the voting arena. Some people leave, and so it's an asymmetric game. Things change. You can't use the same playbook, and I'm hoping that Democrats can figure something out in 4 years, understanding that this is a contingency that we need to think about, is the fact that Joe might not make it, and want to run for another term.
No doubt about it. And Mike Brooks, I want to come to you next. Corey, I'm going to hit you last on this question. But Mike, I know that about a decade ago, I came up to Alabama when you were a professor at UAB and had a great weekend speaking with your mentees there at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, where you had a number of young Black males at the institution, and you were providing all sorts of extracurricular guidance to those young men. And I know that you're doing powerful work at North Carolina A&T while on faculty there now. With that in mind, when we're talking about breaking that glass ceiling and the possibility that in 2024, Vice President Kamala Harris may be the front runner for the Democratic nomination for president, what can we as Black men do to bridge the gap that is still between the sexes to a great extent? And what I mean by that is, this is all anecdotal. I don't have the raw numbers to throw at you tonight, but we all have seen it on social media. We've seen it on my page. Taite just hit it right out the park when he said they talk about her policies, but deep down inside, when you offer them other alternatives, when you say, what about Amy Klobuchar? Or you say, what about Tulsi Gabbard? Or what about Elizabeth Warren? They don't like them either. And so at a certain point, it becomes, is your dislike the policy, or is your dislike the fact that this is a woman? What can we as brothers who are not misogynistic do to help push forward the narrative that women are more than capable of leading as president of the United States? Take that away, Mike Brooks.
Yes. Just like Taite, that's a challenging question, but I don't think the answer is super difficult. I think we need to call out ignorance when we see it and continue to do so. I think we need to edify qualified women, just like we always have, and stand behind them. And honestly, and this may sound like I'm breaking serious man code here, but even in our private conversations, when it's just us, we may need to say, brother, there may have been a time where I would have kept my mouth closed, but I think you're wrong. And really start to just hold ourselves accountable, both inwardly as well as outwardly, with our actions, and support women head up, straight up. Kamala Harris is going to be an awesome candidate for president. And I think the Democrats would be fools to waste 4 years as opposed to prepping her and a host of others for the lineage of being president. We need to be strategic. We need to talk about policy and stop talking about personalities and get people in line so that we could get them ready. One thing that Donald Trump did do was he gave a whole lot of nobodies experience in working in the White House.
Yeah, so that's right.
To qualify to hold jobs. He strategically planted a whole bunch of zeros in powerful positions. So one day they could pop up and say, well, I did this job for 4 years. I did this job very well. And to a certain degree, they'd be right. We need to start taking a page out of that playbook and get people in the proper place. And Kamala Harris is there.
No, that's real talk. And one of the other things I've always appreciated, and when I say appreciate it, appreciate the fact that it is powerful, is that Donald Trump has done an amazing job of mesmerizing his followers and his base. And, as we start to move away from his administration, it will be important for some of us to study, okay, what is it about his message that actually worked? And Corey, I'm going to come to you with this, because one of the things that's very interesting that we are starting to see now that some of the smoke settled is that while, yes, we were able to win the presidency as Democrats, we didn't actually have the blue tsunami or the blue wave that we had hoped in the House and or the Senate. Now, obviously, we still know that the 2 Georgia Senate seats are up for grabs here in the runoff race in January. But I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in the days after the election because I thought that we would do better as a party. And that comes to the fact that, again, Republicans were able to still turn out their base for their rank and file down ticket type races. And so with that, there are things that we need to be studying on that. And that goes back to what we will be talking about a lot in the months to come, which is Democrats being Democrats, which is something that Jay Hayes and I talk about a lot on Facebook in regards to if you're going to do it, do it. And that's something that I actually respect about Republicans. And when I say respect, I mean, I'm not saying I like it, but I respect their verve in that when they take a stand and it's something that they want to see done, damn it, they go get it done. If you get where I'm coming from, we need to have the same type of resolve. None of this kumbaya, none of this, we need to all get along. And no, we need to push for the things that got you elected in the first place. And I hope to do my part, and I know we all will, to that end. Corey, go ahead and take it away, brother.
No, I just have to agree with some of the sentiments that have already been intimated. I mean, I'm like Jason. I want to see the entire paradigm shift leftward because the right has done a remarkable job over the last 50 years or so of shifting the paradigm all the way to the right. So much so that, a Republican concept such as Obamacare became extreme left when Obama put it forward. So I think that the battle has to be to shift the paradigm intellectually and from a public understanding point. The public we need to move and push the public towards the left. And I think that if we do that, some of the issues that plague us can be addressed. With respect to, Democrats being Democrats, I completely agree. I love AOC. I love the squad. I love those ladies. I like what they stand for. I like their not giving a whatness about them. I like that. I love it because too many times Democrats have been mealy-mouthed and afraid to fight for the things that they believe in. Meanwhile, Republicans are coming at you tooth, nail, knife, hammer, gun, tank, nuclear option if they, when they have to get any and everything that they want. And they're, we see that just right now in the, in the aftermath of the election. So I think that, to the issue of what am I looking for, out of the Biden presidency, I think a return to normalcy is a good thing, but I think that within that return, we need to start moving the other way. Because normal actually wasn't that great for us if we're all honest about it. And to Ted's point, my frat brother, don't give us tokenism without substance. Sure. So, I'd rather see the substance. And that's what we need to do. And Sister Kamala, she's obviously, we all know she's prepared and she can step in to be the president at any time. But let's be honest about that, guys. Real talk. There's misogyny out there. And it's a lot of it. And it's a lot of it in our community. We have friends, we have family. And when you talk to these brothers and you really kind of dig down to what their objections are, it's really a bunch of nonsense and it's really misogyny. So, we just got a long way to go on that, intra-racially, as well as interracially. So, we just got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing.
And with that, Corey Smith, I'm going to give you the last word. And so I want to thank you all, Teddy, Kevin, Tate, Jason Hayes, Mike Brooks, and of course, Corey Smith. I want to thank you, brothers, this evening for coming on. And I want to let you know, man, I love y'all. I know that we were not raised to say that phrase to each other. We came up hard. I get it. Y'all used to pick on me, call me Oprah Winfrey and the senator and all that type of stuff back in the day. And I mean, that's cool and all. I mean, I get it. But at the end of the day, as we get older, man, I appreciate and admire you brothers and so many more of our brothers who are acting all shy and scared to come on air and what have you and chop it up with us. But at the end of the day, you all continue to feed me and give me life. And I'm appreciative for each of you. And I pray for you this week as we all give thanks for our families and the ability to be able to rest, because so many of our brothers and sisters are no longer here and capable to do so. So with that, happy Thanksgiving, brothers. And I look forward to the next time that we get to chop it up here on Hobbservation Point Live.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, brother.
No doubt. And I
Happy
also,
Thanksgiving,
before we go, want to put up this flyer tomorrow evening. If you take a look at this, and I posted it on my Facebook page, you all, earlier today, there's going to be a Spell House virtual fundraiser for Teddy Ewing Corey's frat brother, the President Emeritus, Dr. Robert Franklin, who is running for Congress up in Georgia. A lot of heavy hitters, as you can tell, on this flyer, who will be on the call tomorrow evening as we seek to try to raise money for President Franklin in his race. So if you have an opportunity, please log on tomorrow evening, listen to the conversation, participate in the conversation, and by all means be able to be prepared to go forward and provide whatever financial remuneration for the campaign that the Lord places on your heart to do. And with that, again, I want to thank each of you who have watched us this week, and I pray that you continue to.
My bad.
It's all good. Noise don't stop the house either.
That's it.
But with that in mind, again, I want to thank you all, and I hope that each of you will enjoy yourselves this weekend during the rest of this week during Thanksgiving. Potato pie, sweet potato pie is still better than pumpkin pie. Make sure that the macaroni is moist. Eat till you fill. And then, as many of us have been on our weight loss journeys this year too, make sure you drink lots of water and get some walking and some exercise in too before the itis hits you on Thursday. But with that, we look forward to seeing you again next week on Hobbservation Point Live. Have a great week.